Okay, so we're doing Math 108. This is, I think, video 17. We're continuing with basically about statistics, but what we now have to talk about now is something called average, something you're pretty familiar with, I believe, and its fancy name is the mean. So, getting my pencil again. There we go. Got my pencil, and so we're continuing with this stuff, and let's talk about average. That's what we need to do next, and the fancy name for it is it's the same thing. The fancy name for it is called the mean. So they may use that word a lot. So let's know that word, mean, average. All right, so you all know how to do this, but let's do it anyway, together, and then formally show you what the formula is. Let's say you have 5 grades, 85, 90, there were 5 tests, for example, 65, 75, and 100. And the question is, what's the average? That's the question. So we all know what to do. Add these all up and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we can do that in a second, but let me show you the formal formula. This is how it looks, and they use a Greek letter. I believe that's an M, a Greek M. In any case, it looks like a U to me, and that's how it looks in the books. It looks like a U. They usually have something a little bit coming down over here, but it looks more like a U than an M. So that's the symbol, the Greek symbol for mean. You need to know, you'll probably see that in the future. And here's data item number 1, data item number 2, data item number 3, etc., until you run out of data items, and divide by something called n, which is the number of data items. So in our case, this is x1, this is x1, etc., 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 all the way to x5. And in our case, this is my scrap paper here, n is equal to 5. Why? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data items. So we add up. What does that mean for how to actually do this? You all know how to do this, but we need to, this formula is important. We cannot ignore this formula. You add up all the data items called x1, x2, that's what they're called, and you divide by n, which is going to be the number of data items. That's what n is. Number of data items. All right, so what do? We add up 85 plus 90 plus 65 plus 75 plus 100 and divide by n, which in our case is the total of 5 data items divided by 5. What we get is 415 divided by 5. And what we get out of that is an average of 83. You can use a calculator to figure that out if you needed to. And that's it. There's our answer. Okay, fine. Now, let's make the case a little bit more complicated. I want to move my paper up. I'm going to move this paper up. Good. Problem number 2. We're still talking about average. What if there's a bunch of people in the class, and they had a test, and the one person got a 75. I'll give you a frequency table. One person got a 75. 4 people got an 85. 4 people got a 90. Right? The frequency will be over here. 3 people got a 95. And 2 people got 100. Okay, that is the situation. 2 people got 100. Now, what is That was these are the scores. These are the test scores. Test scores. Right? The test score. And now what I want to do is I want to get the average. But I have what this is called grouped data. Grouped data. So there's another formula when you want the mean, right? The mean or the average. When you want the mean or the average, there's another formula for group data. This is what it looks like. It looks a little bit strange. The average, what got lost in the shuffle is don't forget that, U equals. So here it is again. It was up there in the formula, but here's another formula. You take F1, which is the frequency of the first data item, times the data item, plus F2, frequency of the data item, times the second data item, until you run out of data items. Then you divide that by n. You divide that by n, but what is n? We'll talk about that in a second. Hold on. So let's take our case, right? Problem number 2. I want to separate problem number 2 from problem number 1 so we don't get confused. Okay, so here it is. What is F1? It's just plain 1. The frequency of the first data item is 1. What is the first data item? The 75. Multiplied times 75. Then comes, what is the frequency of the second data item? Second data item is 85, so it's 4 plus 4 times the second data item, 85. Plus, what's the frequency of the third data item? It's 90. It's going to be 4, frequency of the third data item times the data item. The frequency of the fourth data item, which is 3, times the data item, 95. And the frequency of the fifth data item, which is 2, times the data item, which is 100. Okay, why? There's no more data items. How many data items are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the total types of scores that we had. So that we ran out of data items, and right next door to every data item, we put their frequency, multiplying them. And now the question is, what is this n? What is this n? The answer is, it's not 5. Don't divide by 5. If you divided by 5, it's absolutely wrong. If you divide it by 5, it's absolutely wrong. You have to divide by all of these frequencies added up together. 1 and 4 is 5, 5 and 4 is 9, 9 and 3 is 12, and 2 is 14. That's our n. Our n in this case is all the frequencies combined, which is 14. That is grouped data formula. Right here is the group data formula, and the n is all the frequencies added up. What are the numbers? Well, I'll tell you what the numbers are. You can use a calculator. This all adds up to 1260 when you work it out. 75, 4 times 85 is going to be 340, 360. Add them all up together, you get 1260. Divide it by 14 and you get a 90 average, a nice neat number. It won't always be a nice neat number. Equals 90. And this problem, here's the answer. This is the average for the people's tests. 4 people got a 90. 1 person got a 75. But you take the average of everybody, it's going to turn out to be a 90. And this is grouped. This is the formula for the average, for the mean, where that word mean, average, here it is, mean, average, and it's group data formula. Right? There's a difference between working with group data and working with just plain numbers, plain numbers where you add them up and get the average. Okay, we end this video and we go into more stuff hopefully very soon. Okay.